Hello everyone, and welcome back to Total Warhammer 3. I'm Lord Formand, here with another guide, this time covering the Demons of Chaos. Demons of Chaos are a interesting faction. They're kind of a play and create your own character faction a bit. Their main stuff is they have demonic gifts, they can customize body parts and weapons, and they ascribe glory to the 4 Chaos Gods to get boons in the form of units and gifts. Also, the guy looks pretty epic. Your faction effects, you have access to all the demonic units via demonic glory, and Reign of Chaos, inflicting damage with friendly lords in battles will unlock random army abilities, which are all very nice. And then these are basically all the same here. You get different gifts. You can go with Chaos Undivided, Khorne, Nurgles, Slaanesh, or Teach, and they gain different effects on your armies and stuff. So let's just jump right into the starting position and go from there. Okay, here we are with the starting position of this faction. First off, you don't own any settlements, so the first thing to do is move up here and capture Demon Keep, and they actually give you a mission to do so after you beat this army. Let's just quick do this. Yeah. When you win a victory, though, you have a choice here. You can dedicate the victory to the general Chaos Gods altogether, or a specific one. Depending on who you grant it to, you'll get more benefits later on. So winning that battle, you get that, and then it wants you to occupy this province. Now, when you occupy, you have some interesting options. You can resettle it for each of the Chaos Gods and get them more favor. Early on, I would recommend focusing mainly towards Nurgle and Khorne, because a lot of their units are going to help you. Their starting units are a bit better than some of the other ones. So in this case, I'm going to do Khorne. And then it gives you a hero and all that stuff. So now if we look at this building here, you'll see that it marks it as dedicated to Khorne, and the garrison here is made up of Khorne units. If you did it with the other ones, you'd get their units in there. And if we go to the recruitment screen here for basic military, you'll see we can build and recruit Khorne buildings. If we did it with the other ones, we'd have unlocked their different recruitment buildings. So in order to recruit units from Khorne, you have to build their specific buildings, which makes, when you have 4 provinces in an area, probably a good idea to dedicate one to each of the different Chaos Gods if you want that area as a recruitment center, so that you can recruit all the different various units from it. In the middle here, you will have a variant as well based off the gods that you've supported. Remember that you can only up to level 3 in the minor settlements here, so the higher ones are going to require a capital settlement. You have garrisons, and the garrisons are kind of a mix of all of them. They don't seem to change based off who you've colonized the settlement with. So just be aware of that. I recommend putting a garrison in a fair amount of your buildings, mostly the ones that you'll get on this coast, just because you'll be attacked by lots of the uncorrupted factions as you do. This one starts with marble. Interestingly, if you build this gives you Teach glory. I'm not sure why it doesn't change to one of the god you dedicated to, but in this case, it's Teach. So theoretically, you could make this one a Teach one and get a huge discount on building their units. It's up to you if you want to maximize it. I don't love Teach's units that much myself. And then you have your different various buildings here. Unfortunately, you don't get some of the better Khorne buildings. This faction is basically a lesser version of the other 4 Chaos factions. If you want to play those, I like those a lot better than I liked playing this faction. There's almost too much here to know what's going on. This is definitely not one of the ones you want to start your first campaign with. Over here, you got your control building. It does give you a garrison, which is nice. Over here, you've got, in this case, a Khorne building. Changes based off lord you occupied with. Over here, you've got your standard income building. It's just a solid income building. In some ways, it's almost too good because it pays off really quickly. And over here, you've got your growth and cheaper recruitments. So if you built this marble, dedicated the province to Teach, and then you do all of this, you could get something like 25% cheaper building teach units. Anyhow, let's get into this guy who I've named Morcar. You can name him different on the before you start the loading screen. You can name him whatever you want. I just went with a randomized name. So this guy, unlike all the other lords, does not have really separate lines. Instead, he just has 5 specific lines: Corrin, Nurgle, Slaanesh, Teach, and all the Chaos Gods, basically. I recommend for starting, you either go up here, Glorious Warfare, Chaos Undivided, and snag Growing Chaos, so you can build up your lands, Respective North, to get diplomatic relations and movement range. Now, I wouldn't personally do this myself. Some people may want to do that. I would actually start down here with Nurgle, because Nurgle's second tier stuff here is casualty replenishment rate, which is very powerful in Total Warhammer 3. I found might be one of the best things to get on Lords. Plus, you also can get reduction from attrition. Not that you'll be suffering tons of it, but it helps. Other than that, you can kind of pick what you want. If you're raiding, sacking, take the Corn stuff. If you're using Corn troops, you want to be basically focusing in the Corn tree. If you're using Teach, focus in the Teach tree type stuff. It's pretty simple. Depending on what type of unit you're using, focus the Lord into that. Up here, Chaos United, though, gives all glory gained rather than just any specific ones. So if you stack that 15 and 15 plus 30 of whatever god you've built all the way up, I wouldn't necessarily spend a lot of time in this. I would just kind of pick and choose the ones you really need. These later ones are all about the higher level units from a faction. I like the Chaos Undivided tree because it gets you Lightning Strike. It also gives you upkeep from the various units here, 15, and then over here you get negative 15 as well. So you could have negative 30 of any god. Just you're going to want to specialize into maybe 2 gods, 3 if you push it. I wouldn't do all of them. Remember that Corn is heavy melee units, probably the best in the game. Nurgles is kind of about plague and debilitating the enemy as you fight them. Slaanesh is about speed and flanking, so a couple Slaanesh units in their army aren't a bad idea, but if you make your whole army Slaanesh, you'll basically be playing a Slaanesh faction, and their units are kind of glass cannons. And then down here, Teach is all about the magic and range units, so be aware of that. Then you'll also see this nicely odd symbol down here. It's very easy to miss. I missed it the first couple times I went looking for it. Demonic Glory. This is where things start to get a little complicated. So in case you're wondering what the Demonic Glory you've been picking up is for, it is for filling up these bars. As you fill up the bars and you get to certain levels, this case 110 here, you'd unlock this body. As you do it with each guide, you unlock different ones. And then over here, you'll be able to choose their loadout. Let's just quick go over the starting expansion, then we'll jump to a later save, and so you can see some more options and some important body parts and things to hit with each army. So you start at war with basically faction to the south, faction to the north. In my experience, don't really worry too much about the guy to the north. It tends to get taken out by these guys, or these guys early on. You want to snag the rest of the starting province, which is these 3 right here. And then, of course, you'll get your edicts and stuff. So I recommend you take your army, probably build up. At the start, you're just going to have access to Chaos Furies and Chaos Warhounds. So build them. They're not great, but they're good enough against the armies you're going to be fighting. And you're not going to be able to get those basic military buildings going for a while. Even if we had this building built, we still would not be able to deploy these troops, because as you'll see at the bottom, glory required 440. We'd have to get up to 440 corn glory before it's unlocked, even if we've already built the building. This is probably one of the more annoying things about this faction. It's quite possible to build buildings that you think will allow you to train units, only to find out you don't have enough glory to build them. It's also why you kind of want to specialize in 1 or 2 categories. So once you've expanded, conquer these 2, down here is probably going to be your next expansion route into this next province over here. be aware that as you do, you're going to be running across Kalstaltine. Probably said his name wrong. From Kislev, who's right over here. Tends to be very aggressive against you. Thankfully, your starting army, even just made up of Chaos Warhounds and Furies, tends to be able to take him out if you use your other units smartly. And you don't actually have a tech tree as this faction, which is really odd. It's basically your tech tree is this. Yeah, it's a very different faction than one might be used to playing with. It's got its strengths, it's got its weaknesses. It doesn't have any of the specifically overly specified techniques like cults. It doesn't have the ability to like create Nurgle plagues. It doesn't have like teaches wind of magic manipulation type stuff. It's kind of like a shallow version of each of the Chaos Gods if you couldn't make up your mind which one to play. So let's jump to a later save here, probably about a third of the way through my run, and you'll see where things are, and you'll see some more of the customization stuff, which you have to admit, it's probably why you want to play this faction anyway. Okay, here we are, 38 turns into the game. You'll notice I've expanded quite a bit along here, and obviously the rifts are open. So, first thing to note is I've gone up here, and I have fortified these. When I was doing this initially, I didn't realize that I should probably dedicate each specific city to a different Chaos God, so I pretty much heavily focused into Khorne. The cool thing is, because you're limited to these level 3 buildings, that oops, I meant to swap to this one, not abandon it. Which means you can get your minor settlements. You can get all the basic military buildings of the different Chaos Gods in a minor settlement rather than having to build them in the major ones. So here I'd get the access to the Teach ones. The Exalted Pink Horrors of Teach are probably one of your better range units you're going to have for some time. So it might be worth definitely building a couple of those in your army, unless you're going to go heavily into Khorne, which I kind of did for some time. Before I realized that balancing it out might have been a slightly smarter decision. Over here I did the Nurgle building. Thankfully you don't have the Nurgle cycles on your buildings. You just have, if growth gets really, really high, you get an income from the Nurgle buildings. It affects all of these. Controls, garrisons. Doesn't affect income. And doesn't really affect summoning. But these ones, it's kind of the same building. They just change which glory you're generating and which hero you can recruit. And some of which have another benefit there. That's basically simple. Pretty simple. Now, if we jump up to... My lord must be in Chaos Realm. Yes, there he is. Obviously a different name because it was a different campaign. You'll see I've focused a lot heavier into combination of Teach and Khorne units. It seemed to be the best combination from what I could find at this point in the game. So let's look at our 17-1. So I did Nourishment, got a little bit of Chaos Uncorrupted corruption spreading, and then I went heavily into this to have cheaper Khorne units, the ability to at least have non-aggressions, if not alliances, with the other Warriors of Chaos, Demons of Chaos, Beastmen, and Norska, just because I'm getting invaded by Kislev and stuff. It's not really worth fighting a war against all of them. Plus, they're allies and they tend to attack for you. But now, here we are, the Demonic Glory. So we have a little over a third of the way of the bar filled. And let's talk about some interesting highlights. First off, on each of these, you'll see this one right here with this star. This unlocks basically a minor ability from each of the Chaos factions. For example, on this one, I Teach, it unlocks the Teleport stance, requires Winds of Magic to use. Up here, Slanesh, you have the ability to seduce enemy units on the enemy army to your side in battle. It's only 2,000, so it is limited. All of these are limited. Nurgles Gifts might be one of the better ones. It unlocks a ability to switch between 4 minor plagues on your armies. That can spread to the enemies if you fight battles with them. But it doesn't give you the ability to like concoct plagues and send them out. And up at Khorne, you get the bloodletting feature for all your armies. And that's the same as Khorne ones. Thankfully, it doesn't cause as much problems for you. But still not fighting battles does weaken your growth and everything. And as you go further down, you'll see you unlock the different ones. So Fleshhounds of Corn were unlocked at 110 glory. Blood Shrine of Corn at 660. And these were the 441 that I had noted earlier. So obviously we've gone much heavier into Corn just so that I have a strong melee front. And a little bit more into Nurgle here, just because I wanted to get the Switchable Plague feature on my armies pretty soon, because it does make it a lot easier. Now, as you go further down the tree, you'll unlock some more stuff. And there's different bonuses here. For example, casualty replenishes rate, income raising settlements, control, casualties, etc., etc., etc. Doesn't really ever unlock another big bonus here, so I would make sure you get to this level soon, and then basically as soon as you can unlock those features, then keep going. Here's another important point. Once you get up to this level of glory, you can either choose to dedicate yourself to one of the Chaos Gods, which will unlock the rest of these trees, and you won't gain any glory with the other factions, so make sure you get it to the level at which you want them. So if you want access to the higher levels of the other factions before you dedicate to one, make sure you get up there. You get diplomatic relations with all the factions of that Chaos God. And then you get access to even more powerful demonic gifts and units up here. If you go Chaos Uncorrupted, you maintain access to all the Chaos factions, and you get more relationships with the other sort of Chaos Uncorrupted ones up here. You don't get any of the crazy bonuses you might get down here, cheaper upkeep and everything, but you do get access to the units. Oh, come on. There's so much here, it's hard to scroll around this page. Come on. You do get access to all of them up here, and you get your bonuses: upkeep, recruitment, recruitment level, and global recruitment duration down. Now, the other one is, as you go along, you unlock different pieces of body customization, some of which are in a category. For example, Armaments of War here. If you have all those gifts equipped, you get that bonus in the area. The only area I found that was particularly strong in, well, basically I found that the Nurgle and Corn customizations tended to be the best ones for me. And the bonuses for completing a Corn set, you get the recruitment rank and armor. Whereas if you do it for, say, Nurgle, for that one, you get corruption. You get corruption and diplomatic relations with factions, or you get corruption and winds of magic per turn. Which is very nice. I mean, none of these are terrible. Just some are stronger than others. Like this one, casualty replenishment for only Nurgle units plus 20. So if you're going in Nurgle, it's really strong. And that's it carries through kind of rather consistently. Sometimes some of the bonuses change. Like this one, cheaper upkeep for Slaanesh units. Just basically find which one you want to go for, and when you get to applying it, apply that one. Up here, Chaos Undivided tends to be weaker than specializing to each of the Chaos Gods, but again, you get a more general bonus. So you'll see this guy looks a little bit different than the other one when we started. It's because he's got all these different stuff. If we were to put him back to where he was, he'd look a lot similar. Now, each one of these we can change for it. It changes the way the head looks. It applies for all of them. Depends what you're looking for. I found stuff that I found some that I particularly liked and kind of left it on them, particularly ones that had Gorefest, which is casual, basically regeneration, was really nice on my legendary lord here. He's not an amazing fighter at this point. Would become one as time goes on. Whoops. Also be aware that you can really zoom in on them, even if you don't mean to, and you can spin them around. You got your standard character creation stuff unlocked as you play more of the game. I didn't particularly like the Teach and Slaanesh body parts. It's really up to you. If you want to have access to spells and stuff, you could do that. This character can be a pretty good spellcaster or pretty good in melee. I found I liked him a little bit more in melee than spellcasting, and I could just build Teach heroes to get spells. It is important to note that on the arm ones here, if you focus into some stuff like, oh, it doesn't do it here. Where was that? there are some stuff you can focus into. Yeah, here we go. Like, for this one, Scythed Arms. Equipping this demonic gift will cause a conflict. If you do that, it unequips your sword. So just be aware of that. I found it was usually better not to have that on there and instead use something else. This is my personal preference there. And some of them, like this one, give resistances. So like some of these ones, you get ward saves, which are pretty nice. Or you get attack and defense. Usually ward saves are lower percentages, but they apply to all damage, so they can be very powerful in that sense. Spell resistance is always a solid one, especially if you're fighting factions that have spells. Kislev likes to have spells. Yeah, I mean, all the Chaos Gods use spells. Kislev, you're going to see it a little bit more often, especially if you're fighting the Tsarina there. And then you get different weapons. You can also equip a two-handed weapon, which just unequips your hand weapon and your offhand. Just be aware of that. I left the shield on because the ability to block missiles is quite solid. Otherwise, the enemies can just kill your hero with ranged units pretty efficiently. And that's kind of it. I mean, you really kind of have to go through here and figure out what you like. I found stuff that gave direct damage in area while in melee to be really nice against killing trash units. So stuff like Serpentine Tail, Pestilential Decay. Stack those. It's doing like 40 or 40 or more damage to enemies just around the character every second when they're fighting, which is really good against killing units that can't necessarily hurt your hero but are bogging them down. You could, of course, focus into having your unit fly a bit. You can get barrier here on your hero from the teach stuff. Can be nice because your hero is more likely to get out of combat than a normal unit, a normal teach unit, but it's a pretty low barrier amount in all honesty. It does give ward save here, so it's not bad. Plus you can fly as long as you have Winds of Magic, which is always nice. You can either specialist this guy into a spellcaster, fighting units, fighting heroes. It's customize it however you like. And obviously, as you go further up the tree, the benefits get greater and greater. Like this one, regeneration. They give different abilities for you to use as you get up there. So play around with it, find what you like. It's rather overwhelming. I kind of wish there was a way to like mark ones to remove them from this list. Like, I don't want to use the base stuff anymore. Give me a checkbox that I can hide it from. There isn't one. That's basically it. Once you beat Castalton, though, you'll get extra leadership in your Lord's army, which is always a nice one. As you can see, there's a lot of different bonuses that pop up here. It's really not that complex of a faction other than trying to manage the whole Chaos God dedication and settlement stuff. Pick which god you like the best, go with them. Honestly, though, I liked Chaos Undivided more than I like specializing, because if I'm going to specialize, I might as well go play the actual faction, which has all the bonuses. But it's kind of nice. If we are to look at an army here, oh, that's not ours. Here we go. Over here, you'll see they have the bloodletting. Because bloodletting is inactive, it imposes a growth penalty on all your armies. So honestly, you could theoretically make an argument not to build up Corn Glory at all and get to the Corn ability in your armies, because it applies a penalty to a lot of your provinces. But as you get more battle victories here, just like it's Corn faction, you get more bonuses. Up at the highest level, 9 battle victories, massive growth, massive casualty replenishment rate, corruption, global recruitment, and upkeep. So it's very powerful if you want to do it that way. Down here, this is where your switchable plague is. You can swap between these 4 different plagues. Attrition, leadership, Vanguard deployment weakens the enemy's speed and melee defense. Recruitment cheaper on Nurgle armies. Casualty replenishment -20, and then down here causes terror, attrition, and charge bonuses. I particularly like this one because it causes terror, and terror is a solid one. Makes the enemies flee, even if they have leadership left. Plus, attrition is always solid. The other one, this one wasn't bad for leadership. I never found I struggled that much with leadership, though, because you have mostly demonic units which fight to the death or their leadership is broken. So I guess it would make them fight a little bit longer, but it still won't help them win the fight. You also have access to the teleport stance. As long as you have winds of magic, you can kind of use the underway jump. You are immune to attrition while using that, so that use that to your advantage if you're invading an area and you're suffering a lot of attrition. Oh, and the Slaanesh one only happens during battles. I don't think I have the ability. Oh, I do have the ability to start a battle here. Oh, nope, I don't. Basically, if you get a battle on the battle screen on the bottom right, there'll be an option of a budget of 2,000. You can pick enemy units, and they each have a different cost. Put them down there. You can put them on your side for that battle. You don't keep them permanently, but they fight on your side, so it's a great way to weaken the enemy. It's not as strong as the actual Slaanesh factions bonuses, which can take away powerful units from the enemy. You can only tend to take away minor units, but hey, still an extra unit on your side, so you'll have more than 20 units in a battle. Those are the Bane 4 bonuses there. I didn't find that I unlocked anything else unbelievably great the further I went into the tree, other than, you know, your standard default bonuses. This is one of the big benchmarks that you want to achieve pretty early on. The other thing to note is your different lords you recruit are from the different chaos gods. So you can recruit Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, or Teach. They all have the benefits of their distinct faction. I found I really liked both the Khorne and the Nurgle one. Obviously, if you want more magic, take a Teach one, for example. But they each have their different bonuses and weaknesses. And it's important to remember that their strengthening stuff, their red line here, or what used to be their red line, only gives bonuses to their specific type units. So if you're going to have a Nurgle Lord, you should probably be trying to use Nurgle units. Otherwise, you'll have a less... You won't be able to strengthen your actual units, but you'll get the other abilities. Kind of up to you which one you use. I mainly went Khorne and Nurgle with a little bit of Teach to back up, so I had some range. Didn't really use many of the Slaanesh units just because they're only really good at flanking, and I have the higher level Khorne Cav do that, which I liked better. So that's it. Keep an eye on all this stuff. You get bonuses sometimes when you fight battles and stuff. It's kind of nice. There's really not that much to say about this faction other than trying to customize your leader. It's not one of my favorite factions. I'm sure you figured that out by now. I feel that it's lacking real depth other than customization. But enjoy yourself. They start in one of the better positions of the Chaos Gods here because as you expand south, Kislev's right here. So you can definitely take the fight to Kislev and the Empire down here rather than being way up here like the Slaanesh and others and kind of fighting the other Chaos Gods. Just be aware that right now with this whole Soul Hunt thing, it's usually better to not massively expand. In which case, if you're not going to expand into Kislev, this area right here is your choke point. Stick a couple of armies down here on ambush stance and just watch it as Kislev sends dozens of armies up there and they all die. I really wouldn't expand too far this way. If you expand too far this way, you're going to run across the dwarves up here. And there's really no point in fighting the dwarves if you're already fighting the humans, is there? Have fun. Enjoy yourself. It's kind of neat having a customizable lord, but you lack all the powerful abilities of the other Chaos God factions. And that will be it for this guide. If you did enjoy it, please do like and subscribe. It's a real big thing. 90% of people or more who watch this video don't. So try and be part of the small 10% minority here. And hope you've enjoyed this guide. check out my other ones, and I will see you guys all in another guide video or live stream. Bye for now.